Good afternoon, parents. Good afternoon, parents. Thank you so much for joining us. For the few that we do have online, we want to make sure that we're still sending a strong message about our reentry plan for our scholars that are slated to come back to in-person learning. So today is so that we can discuss our plan, give an overview of the safety protocols and the schedules that we will have in place for our scholars and teachers of Lucie E. Campbell Elementary School. If those that are online that do not know who I am Principal Jeans. This is my second year at Lucie E. Campbell, and I'm elated to be leading this school. So today, we know that the coronavirus pandemic has changed the way we see the world. We know that it's impact us either in our immediate families or in distant families for those that we know. However, we know that we have to continue to keep our students safe. We have to teach them safety protocols and provide social and emotional support through this incredible time. We have decided as a district to re-enter our buildings and serve our students who have opted for in-person learning while continuing virtual learning. So that means that for scholars that have selected to come back, or parents that selected for the scholars to come back on March 1st, our doors will be open for those scholars. And for those parents that have elected for their scholars to still receive virtual instruction via Microsoft Teams will still do so in their homes. So our district is committed to providing the best learning experiences for our students. As we look forward to implementing the plan for the rapidly approaching phased return to in-person learning in March, we must garner our resources and efforts to continue providing high-quality learning options for our students. So this reentry plan will begin for those scholars that have selected to have in-person learning as their option. So as a district, we have done several things to prepare our scholars for in-person learning and also to prepare our teachers to come back to in-person learning. So what you see here is a list of things as it relates to enhanced health and safety protocols. So we've increased our cleaning. All common areas will be thoroughly cleaned and disinfected at least twice per day. Thorough cleaning and disinfection of all frequently touched areas at least 4 times per day. And that includes our restrooms. Daily restock of tissue, paper towels, hand soap, and hand sanitizer dispensers. And when students come into the building, they will see that we have prominently placed hand sanitizer dispensers around the building. So when students do transition into the building or for dismissal, they have the option to hand sanitize, and when they're transitioning to the restroom. Safeguards to limit the spread of germs, we are going to conduct a temperature and health monitoring for all students, staff, and visitors. Those who have fever or symptoms will not be allowed to remain at school or work. We will have isolation areas designated for individuals with symptoms. We will social distance. We have markers inside of the building, outside of the building. We will have reduced class transitions, reduced visitor volume, limiting class interactions and gathering. And when we talk about reduced visitor volume, parents have to contact the school to make an appointment. That can either be for parents that need to get a device fixed. That could be for parents that are registering new scholars. That's for parents that have that want to conduct a parent conference. Some things we are still doing virtually, such as parent conferences, IEP meetings. We're doing all of those things virtually, but if parents have to have a meeting in person in order to get paperwork signed or in order to get equipment fixed, then we're using those times to schedule appointments. Limited gathering interactions or interactions and gathering, hand sanitizer stations in all common areas and hallways, frequent opportunities for hand washing. And the use of personal protective equipment, PPE, will be provided by staff. Scholars are required to wear masks upon entering the building and all throughout the building. So all buildings will be equipped with emergency stock of PPE. So in the event scholars tear their mask in the middle of the day, we will have a supply to provide that scholar because we want to make sure that we're following the CDC guidelines and the guidelines set forth by Shelby County Health Department. Health and safety signage in all buildings. So throughout the building, you will see floor decals, you will see wall signage that speaks about being, if you're sick, we encourage people to stay home. Our scholars stay at home. If they are sick, they can still engage virtually through Teams, because inside of the building, scholars are still on Teams to engage in instruction. If scholars, we have signage reminding scholars about the mask, signage reminding scholars about hand washing and hand sanitizing all throughout the building. They're inside our restrooms as well and in classrooms to make sure students are reminded of that. We also have inside of our restrooms steps to hand washing, steps to avoid germs, and the stay home when sick sign. So what to expect when schools reopen? You can expect safety protocols in place. You can expect the students to utilize their devices that they're currently utilizing at home. You can expect social distancing when possible. You can expect high quality instruction daily, and you can also expect social and emotional support. All of these things have been happening daily with the through virtual. Our counselor pushes in to support classes to provide social and emotional support. She provides videos each week to help support social and emotional. High quality instruction has been happening, and students have already been utilizing their student devices in order to receive high quality instruction. So the picture that you see here to the right provides you an understanding of how we have marked off desks, so students can only use one side of the desk. An image that you do not see is that every scholar will have their desk at least 6 feet apart when feasible, and all scholars will have desk shields in front of them. And students are to remain behind that desk shield with their mask on throughout the day. If there's a table that scholars are sitting at, we have limited our table seating to 2 students per table, and we still have those desk shields or table shields so that students can remain behind that shield with their mask on. So student option, currently, this is our current reality. We have 124 students that have selected to return in person. We have 114 scholars or parents who have not selected whether they want to do in person or virtual. So parents, if that's you on the phone and you have not selected whether you want your child to be here inside of the building or if you want your child to be at home, we urge you to please contact the school by calling 416-1000 and informing Ms. Davis of your choice so that we can have an accurate number of those scholars who will be returning for in-person learning. And we have 341 students who will be virtual. All students will be with their teacher of record, whether in person or virtual. So at this point, we have assigned all teachers based on homeroom, and they will be assigned to that cohort of students the entire day. Students will not rotate from class to class for in-person learning. Students will still receive virtual instruction via the Microsoft Teams, and teachers will rotate from classes to limit the spread of germs. So here's a further breakdown of our reality that helps you understand how many kids per grade level we have. So again, our total of in-person is 238. And that does include our number of in-person and no selection because we want to ensure that we prepare for both sets of scholars. So kindergarten currently selected is 27, first grade 25, second grade 16, third grade 15, fourth grade 20, and fifth grade currently has 15 students that have selected. So again, that kind of tells you how our class size will be, but again, that number definitely can change depending upon parents' selection of in-person after our presentation or before school sets to begin for in-person on March 1st. So currently our school personnel, we have 38 teachers returning back. We have 19 educational assistants, 1 behavior specialist, 1 professional school counselor, 2 assistant principals, 1 PLC coach, and 1 principal. Here to the side indicates all of our teachers who will be performing morning duty posts. So this is specifically for our teachers, but I wanted you parents to see how our teachers will be strategically placed to ensure monitoring and to go through our COVID safety reentry for all of our scholars that are coming into the building. So it begins at the entryway of the school. So myself and Miss Smith will be strategically placed outside or at the entryway of the building to ensure that we begin temperature checks. Scholars will not be able to enter the building without a mask. So before we even do the temperature check, we will provide scholars with a mask so that we can all be safe at that point, and then we will begin the temperature check. If the scholar's temperature is below 100.4, they will be allowed into the building. If a scholar has a temperature of a 100.4 or greater, then they will not be allowed into the building. And if parents are still in the parking lot, we're going to walk that scholar back to the car and inform parents of the temperature and why the scholar cannot come into the building. In the event that the parent is no longer available outside, our scholars will be transitioned to a safe room where parents will be called and request to pick the scholar up because of the COVID symptoms. So scholars will have strategic doors to go out of, and when scholars come on Monday, you'll see white strips on the ground. Those are 6 feet markers, which indicate where scholars should stand. Those markers start at the front door, and they go all the way out to the sidewalk on both sides. So someone will be outside, 2 individuals will be outside to ensure that scholars are standing there as we begin that entry into the building. Early drop-off is not prohibited because we will not have anyone outside before 7:50 in order to receive children. So all employees will be on their duty post beginning at 7:50 in order to begin receiving children in the building, and teachers will be at their doors in order to receive scholars into the classroom. So once students come in after they have undergone their temperature check and receive their mask, if they don't come with one, then all scholars will come into the main lobby area and receive hand sanitizer. At that point, we will have about 4 teachers or employees in order to direct scholars to their location. Scholars that are pre-K, pre-K shouldn't be coming through the front door, but in the event something happens, those kids, the exceptional children and kindergarten will come in through the door on the right and go to your right when they're coming in. Scholars that are 5th grade, 1st grade, 2nd, and 3rd grade will come in and go to their left and walk to the right side of the hallway and go directly to their classroom. Because we are limiting transitions and movement of students, when students come into the building and receive their hand sanitizer, they will then go straight to their classroom. And then at that point, they will then receive their breakfast and additional layer of hand sanitizer and sit in their assigned seat. So bus riders, car riders, walkers, daycare riders, and students, parents will check their temperatures. We're asking parents before scholars leave home each day, we're asking for your support. We're asking for you to check your child's temperature before leaving home, before specifically that they get on the school bus, so that we can ensure that scholars, if they're sick, they're staying home. Parents will not be permitted to walk their scholars to class. Scholars will walk in by themselves because, again, we're limiting visitors in the classroom. Parents must become aware of the drop-off times, and our drop-off times are only staggered for pre-K. And I will go over the staggered pre-K time once we get to the pre-K slide. We have informed parents, and we're informing them now, the drop-off for car rider and walker. For car rider, you can start lining up. You can start driving up at 7:40 just to be here in the line. However, we will not start receiving children until 7:50. So at 7:50 is when we ask that you release those scholars from their cars. Student riders and walkers will enter the buildings at entries specific by school personnel, which will be at the front. Again, we have our 6 feet markers. Bus riders, I will show you how our bus riders will enter in, and our bus riders will undergo the same COVID entry as our walkers and our car riders. So from the image that I just showed you here, this is for car riders and walkers that will come in through the main entryway. Then here we have our bus transportation, and I'll show you the entry to our bus transportation or our bus entryway. So for bus transportation, scholars will have assigned seats. They will have there would only be 2 scholars to a seat. Ms. Wiseman is working on that bus assignment, and scholars will be informed of that bus assignment, and they will sit in that seat each and every day. Scholars will have the same bus route as we've had in previous years, the same bus time. All of that information will be sent out with the bus stop times and also the bus pickup and drop off time will be informed to parents, or parents will be informed of that. We will go back to our original bell schedule beginning Monday. Our original bell schedule is 8:15. Scholars are late at 8:30. However, we start receiving children in the building at 7:50. Breakfast will be from 7:50 to 8:15. And then our first instructional period begins at 8:20. Buses will be cleaned and disinfected between routes and at the end of the day. Students who ride the bus will be required to wear a mask. Our bus drivers will be required to have a face shield in addition to disposable face covering when securing wheelchairs, car seats, and seatbelts. And this is for our exceptional children bus. For our bus riders for our bus drivers on general ed buses, they will also be required to wear face coverings. So Durham employees will be screened each day as they arrive to work, just for the safety of children. Durham employees are required to wear disposable or clean reusable masks. Bus will be cleaned inside with disinfecting spray twice daily between each route, and that's the AM and PM. Hand sanitizer will be available on all buses for students and driver usage. Bus drivers will be provided with additional masks for distribution to students as needed. So in the event a scholar does not get on the bus with a mask, bus drivers will have those for them. Drivers will disinfect high-touch surfaces throughout the day. Drivers will ensure first row of buses empty to encourage social distancing. And when we are creating our seat assignment, it is our attempt to skip a seat in between scholars. However, in the event buses fill up, we're still going to have the 2-seat minimum or maximum, but we may not be able to social distance with 1 seat in between our scholars, but we will do that to the best of our ability. Drivers will wear a mask while driving unless causes a safety concern, such as glasses fogging up. Drivers will use gloves when touching surfaces that may be contaminated, and the use of natural ventilation, such as opening windows to increase outdoor air, a dilution of indoor air when environmental conditions allow. So, of course, in extreme cold weathers and rain, that will not be permissible. So temperature checks for students will be implemented at schools when students first arrive in the AM. We're looking into implementing seating charts as discussed, and then it's also going to be recommended that siblings and students that are in the same household, that they sit together as they are a unit. Bus passes files will be emailed will be sent to parents so that you can have that. It is our goal when kids come into the building day 1 on March 1st, we're going to conduct a survey to identify how students go home, and all of our bus riders will be provided a bus card at that time so that they can provide that information to parents. This is our bus entry here. Our buses drop off at the back of the school. We will have 2 zones or 2 areas where we will conduct temperature checks. And again, the same policy where 100.4 or greater, we're still implementing that same policy because students come in on a bus. If a scholar comes in on a bus with that temperature that's a high temperature or a temperature greater than 100.4, they will then be transitioned to our safe room, and parents will be called immediately to pick those scholars up. As you see here, we will still have 2 stations for hand sanitizing, and we will have the flow where scholars will be 6 feet apart and transitioning classrooms. We will have hallway monitors in between, and we will have 2 administrators that will be responsible for temperature checks and also to provide masks in the event scholars do not have them. So earlier we talked about cleaning and those things that we're going to do to ensure healthy protocols are in place. So here you see our times that we have scheduled for restrooms to be clean, and we have indicated those times in between so that they're cleaned after each grade level usage to help spread germs. Here we have staggered restroom breaks, and we have additional coverage or restroom monitors to help support the teachers during this time. When the grade level restroom breaks occur, teachers will inform those scholars that are virtual, that is restroom time, and parents, you may see a screen that's displayed on the scholar's laptop that says restroom or recess break with the time that they should return. Because we are still with a rise of numbers or a decrease of numbers with COVID, but we're coming back into the building. At this time, CDC has not released us to use water fountains. So water fountains will not be used by any scholar in the building. So again, just to reiterate about student and teacher safety, all students and staff are required to wear a mask that's fitted around their nose and their mouth at all times throughout the day and on the bus. Students are allowed to uncover their mouths when they're eating breakfast, when they're eating lunch, and taking a drink of water or milk. This safety measure will be strictly enforced. Teachers and students will have desk shields, and teachers will have a designated hand sanitizing station inside of the classroom. Because, again, we are decreasing the spread, it is our attempt to decrease the spread of germs. Scholars will not be allowed to share instructional materials. However, they can bring a pen, a pencil, their textbook, and paper to class in their laptop bag or in their backpack, but they are not permitted to share any school supplies. And because we're limiting the movement of students, students will not be able to utilize their cubbies as normal or their storage space inside the classrooms. So our scholars that do have a backpack, those backpacks will be permanently placed on the back of their chair, and they will utilize that as storage on the back of their chair. Again, it is our desire to again limit transitions and movement of students to limit the spread of any germs. So school uniforms are required, and I will have a slide that goes over the colors of those school uniforms. However, school uniforms are not required for scholars that are remaining virtual. School uniforms are required only for scholars that are coming into the building in brick and mortar. Outside lunches are permitted for scholars because we know some scholars do not eat the food that's provided by cafeterias in the school district. However, we're asking scholars to bring healthy snacks and healthy lunches to school. But again, nothing can be shared with their peers. And students will be informed, and I'm informing parents that they're only permitted to eat their lunch during their designated lunch time. That's also including water, juice, and those things that may be inside of their lunch bag. Social distancing and classroom transitions. Very important right here, parents. All students will be socially distanced to the extent possible whenever possible. Again, we're focusing on trying to reduce our class sizes, but more importantly, we're reducing our transitions. All students will remain in their cohort classes the entire day. So if I am homeroom 101 and there may be 15 scholars in homeroom 101 and room 206. They will remain there the entire day to receive instruction virtually using their laptop from Microsoft Teams. Students will have breakfast and lunch in their classrooms. When possible, we will attempt to try to move lunch to the cafeteria, but at this time, parents, I do want to inform you that lunch and breakfast will be in the classroom. Teachers will create a classroom design based on the number of students to return, and we will prominently place the desk 6 feet apart to the best of our ability. But all students will have a desk shield. So this is our seating chart that teachers will be turning in to us. And this seating chart, parents, and I want to just show you what was presented to teachers here. This seating chart is going to be required because in the event that a scholar does have or has reported a positive case of COVID, we then have to know who that child was sitting by so that we can begin our contact tracing. So here you see the seating chart that will be reconfigured based on the teacher's design in their classroom, but it'll have individual names of how students will be sitting. Scholars will be required to sit in their same seat each and every day. Teachers will have scholars' name on their desk, and again, will have those desks. Parents, we're asking for scholars to come to school every day with a fully charged laptop. But of course, we know that those laptops will not stay charged the entire day. So we're asking scholars to bring their laptops, their chargers, and their headphones. All scholars will receive instruction again via Microsoft Teams, and they will have on headphones so that it can limit the distractions inside of the classroom. In the event that a scholar left their device or their charger or headphones at home, we will provide them with a loaner device, but the headphones that we provide them will be theirs and they will remain inside of their desk for the remainder of the school year to utilize at school. Teachers will have laptop charging stations inside their classrooms, and during our week of return for in-person learning, teachers will go over the process of how laptops will be charged up using their charger or pieces of equipment that's inside of the classroom. Water usage, again, water fountains are not permissible at this time. So parents, we're asking that you allow your scholar to bring a clear plastic water bottle to class, and only water can be in that plastic water bottle. For safety, water fountains will not be used, and they will not be used even to refill the water bottles. So again, during our breakfast, of course, we will have juice and milk for scholars. During lunch, they will have the same, but we do know that in the meantime or in between time, that we will get thirsty. And so again, water bottles can be brought to school, plastic water bottles. However, we cannot utilize the water fountains. So a typical day, your typical expectations, students are going to come in through the main entryway, or they're going to come in through the pre-K entryway or bus entry, and they're going to undergo the COVID-19 protocol screening where their temperature is going to be checked. They'll have their mask and they'll receive hand sanitizer. Then at that point, scholars will go directly to their classroom, receive their grab and go breakfast, and then they will report to their assigned seat, and they can take their mask off long enough to eat breakfast. Monday through Friday, each and every day, scholars will be with their same cohort the entire day, and teachers will rotate from one class to the next classroom. Again, we talked about breakfast and lunch being in the classroom. Scholars will transition to the restroom with supervision. They will have adult monitors. We will only allow 2 scholars into the classroom at a time. We have blocked off specific restrooms that scholars can utilize to ensure that they have social distancing in the restrooms. In the event of an emergency, teachers will only allow 1 scholar out at a time, and they will contact the main office to inform administration that a scholar has been let out so that we can make sure that we're monitoring. So generally speaking, parents, we're trying to keep our movement of scholars down to a bare minimum to decrease the spread of any germs. So here it's just providing you again an update about the school meals. So for virtual students can still have the opportunity to pick up their meals at school sites on Thursdays. Our school site is Thursday, and it's from 9 to 12 on Thursdays, and then 1 to 5. And then our makeup day for meal pickup or meal distribution is on Friday from 7 to 9. So at this time, those processes are still in place for scholars that are receiving virtual instruction. So learning option parents, if you have not selected if you want your scholar to be in person or virtual, now is the time to do so. If you want to change your selection from what you did on last November, you have one time to do so. So if you email Ms. Davis tomorrow and you make that change, you cannot change again. Your decision will be in place for the remainder of the school year. So again, parents, we do have 114 parents that have not made a selection. And if that's you, please contact us so that we can make that selection for you. Ms. Davis will ask you some detailed information over the phone for security purposes, and then she will make your change in the system for you. So parents do not have the option to go back into Power School and change that option. We have to do that and do that for you. So daily in-person and virtual schedule. Scholars virtually will follow the same schedule as scholars in person. You will still see where they have support, they have staggered restroom breaks, they have specific lunch breaks, which are staggered, they have RTI, and then everyone will be dismissed at 3 o'clock. And as you can see, from 8 to 8:15, as I mentioned earlier, that begins our breakfast. Teachers take attendance. That's our morning announcements. That's when we address social emotional learning videos. And then instruction begins at 8:20. Instruction begins at 8:20 for all grades, kindergarten through 5th grade. And here's an example of what our third schedule will look like. But again, students are not moving. Teachers will rotate during those instructional blocks. Students will still have support. Support will again still be virtual as they're receiving it now. It will be virtual utilizing Microsoft Teams. Classroom instruction. So because we're going to have students in person and we're going to have students virtually, then this is considered a hybrid instruction. So what can you expect for hybrid instruction? Students that are coming inside of the building will receive whole group synchronous learning. And whole group synchronous learning simply means that scholars will be receiving instruction via Microsoft Teams. Even when they do small group instruction, there will not be teacher to student interaction. Even for those scholars in person, all of the interaction will take place via computer. And then we have asynchronous learning. So this week, scholars have been engaging in asynchronous learning, which has been providing teachers the opportunity to prepare for in-person learning for the upcoming week, and also due to water supply issues coming from Memphis Light Gas and Water. However, moving forward on next week, on Monday and Tuesday, again, all scholars that are enrolled with Shelby County Schools will have asynchronous instruction on Monday and Tuesday. At Lucie E. Campbell, every Thursday, we have asynchronous learning from 2 to 3. This is the opportunity where scholars can complete makeup work, and this is the opportunity for grade recovery, because we know that sometimes students may miss an assignment, and so we use every Thursday from 2 to 3 to provide scholars that opportunity to make up any work to ensure that they are passing. So simply put is a brief overview of the day in the life of a teacher. Again, it's all via Microsoft Teams, as you can see, whole group, small group, and asynchronous. The day in the life of a scholar that's virtually, they may not be coming into the building, but this is just an imagery of what happens while they're at home. They get up, they brush their teeth, have breakfast, log into Teams at 8 o'clock, and go throughout the day with virtual instruction. They'll have time for support. They'll have time for lunch. So again, on March 1st through the 2nd, scholars will have asynchronous work, and teachers will log on at 8 o'clock during those asynchronous days, provide an explicit overview of what students should be doing for the day, and then scholars will log off. Then scholars will log back on Tuesday from 8 to 8:25, 8:30, and teachers will give them explicit information on what they should be covering, and then scholars will log off, complete those assignments, and submit them. While we know it's important for scholars to have a brain break and have time away from learning, we're going to do everything in our power to ensure scholars still have that recess with a cohort, with their same cohort of students that they've been with for the entire day, while still obtaining physical distancing. So we will have staggered recess times, and students will hand sanitize before and after recess. But even in the midst of us having recess, scholars cannot use playground equipment. So dismissal. Dismissal will begin for car riders at 3 p.m., bus riders at 3:05, and walkers at 3:10. It is our goal to have all students dismissed by 3 p.m., by 3:15, by 3:15. So parents of car riders, again, as we've done each and every year, we encourage parents to come on, begin lining up their, coming through the circular drive around 2:50, and we will come out immediately at 3 o'clock and begin calling the names. I ask that you know who you're picking up. We will specifically ask the child's full name and grade, and then we will call the child out to the cars, and we will move expeditiously to get all of our scholars home or out of the school building within 15 minutes. Classroom operations for before and after care. Because students are coming back into the building for in-person learning, and we have before and after care going on for virtual. So we will begin utilizing ELOP for in-person learning. Parents, later in the presentation, I will show you, I will provide to you the email and the information if you want to sign up for ELOP. But again, even if your scholar is home virtually, ELOP is available for your scholar. And this is the opportunity for scholars to receive that extended support from schoolwork, because they do have time carved out for tutors in ELOP. During the ELOP, we will still follow the CDC guidelines and the guidelines of Shelby County Health Department. They will still be social distance. Scholars will still be required to wear face masks. All employees will be wearing face masks and PPE gear all at the same time. All of our ELOP scholars will be housed in our multi-purpose room, where we have desks that still have those face shields in order to be in adherence to our guidelines. So again, for ELOP or YMCA, that's if you are wanting to have another source of before and after care. But for us, with ELOP, if you want to be a part of our after school care program, simply contact the school. You simply contact the school and speak with Ms. Davis or Ms. Jeter, and they will add your name to our list, and then that information will be transferred to our site supervisor. Currently, we have space available. We only have 60 slots. Those slots are on a first come, first served basis. Once those slots fill up, then at that point, you will be placed on a waiting list. So again, if you want to be a part, or you want your scholar to be a part of our ELOP before and after school program, contact Ms. Davis at the school tomorrow, 416-1000, and she can add you to the list. You will get a call from the site supervisor to inform you if you have been approved to start or if you are on a waiting list. Beginning Monday, March the 1st, we will be on a regular bell schedule. This means that we will be an 8:15 to 3:15 school, versus us being an 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. school. Uniforms, again, uniforms for students virtually are not required. All in-person learners will be required to follow the SES board policy on uniforms. Our bottoms are khaki, black, and navy. Our shirts are gold, green, and white. Attendance will be captured every day. Teachers take attendance every day within the first 15 minutes of school. If a scholar comes to school after that, they are considered tardy. Teachers will send us an update of any attendance corrections that we need to make. Parents, if your child is absent for a day, they went to the doctor, please email Ms. Davis, and I'll have her email address later on in the presentation, or call the school and she will provide that email address for you. Email the child's doctor's note so that we can correct their attendance, so that it won't become a truancy issue with the scholar. If the child is in person, send the note with the child, and that child will either give the note to the teacher or drop it off at the main office. In the event that we have to have monitors and subs will be equipped to run the classroom as if the teacher was there, and they'll be able to provide assistance to the students, still utilizing Microsoft Teams. So again, our counselor will be has always been a prominent or a vital part of the students' learning throughout the day, as she pushed in to support, and then also she provides guidance to scholars via one-on-one when she's pulling them over into team sessions. That will continue even though we're coming back into the building. So pre-K, if I have some pre-K parents on, pre-K will have staggered entry and staggered dismissal. So due to health checks and questionnaires, students must be dropped off and picked up by adults. Teachers will reach all of our teachers will reach out to all pre-K parents and inform you of your drop off and pickup time. So that you can have it early before teachers call you. Ms. Thompson's drop-off time will be from 7:55 to 8:10. Ms. Ewell's drop-off time will be 8:15 to 8:30. Ms. Dotson's drop-off time will be 8:35 to 8:50. Pickup time for Ms. Thompson will be 2:45 to 2:50. Ms. Ewell's 2:55 to 3, and Ms. Dotson 3:05 to 3:10. Again, all scholars and parents that are entering in, scholars that are entering into the building for pre-K, we will have 6 feet markers outside so that scholars can make sure that they're standing in a distance from each other, because we want to still practice those safety protocols outside and inside of the building. Again, parents will not be allowed to enter the building at any time. Because all of our pre-K scholars must be entered or scanned into Rapture, we're giving that 15-minute window for each class, because that will take a minute for teachers to scan those students into the Rapture system. So again, teachers are going to scan those students in. Parents and students, because I know with pre-K babies, you're going to be standing there with your pre-K scholar. Parents, you will be required to wear a mask upon arrival and dismissal as well. Cleaning for pre-K is the same as cleaning for the entire building. The early childhood staff is going to routinely clean and sanitize and disinfect surface areas and objects that have been specifically touched inside of the classroom. They will give high regard to toys and games. Toys that cannot be cleaned or sanitized will not be used by pre-K scholars. Machine washable cloth toys will be removed. Students will not share toys with other children unless they are washed and sanitized before moving from one group to another. Toys that children have placed in their mouth or that are otherwise contaminated by bodily fluids will be set aside until they are hand washed by someone wearing gloves. Specifically marked sanitizing buckets will be used by soiled toys and kept out of the reach for children to prevent reuse. The cleaning process for toys will include washing with water and a cleansing solution, followed by rinsing and sanitizing with an EPA registered disinfectant. And of course, again, that is for pre-K because we know that scholars have a different set of curriculum for pre-K. So what you can expect for pre-K, scholars can expect whole group learning and centers. And again, for pre-K parents that have not elected to do in-person, we will still have virtual instruction for pre-K. Pre-K will still receive breakfast and lunch in the classroom, and while eating, they'll be able to take their mask off and place their mask in a labeled bag to limit exposure. In the event a staff or student tests positive for COVID-19, parents, this is a self-reporting for families and staff, and also parents, when you self-report, you will be contacting the school. And again, you will contact the school, and that number is 416-1000. And again, as promised, Miss Davis' email address is davis t6@sesk12.org. Parents, that is very important that you self-report and you contact the school. And again, you do that by contacting the school. You can do the site administrator, again, is Miss Davis or Miss Wiseman, but you can always ask to speak to me in order to report that. At that time, we begin our COVID tracing. And so we have to contact our SCS contact tracing team so that we can begin that process. That goes back to our seating chart because that's going to be very important that we share that information with them. And once we go through that COVID process, parents, you will be informed on your next steps when scholars can come back to the building, when what documentation will be required for when the scholar come back into the building. All that information will be shared once we go through the reporting process for COVID-19. For exceptional children, if I have any exceptional children parents on, you can expect support continuously from our Office of SPED staff. They will be deployed into our schools to help support our our SPED teachers and SPED assistants, and that will be face-to-face support. Parents of our exceptional children will be required to have face shields versus face masks. And we're asking for parents, and all of our SPED teachers will be reaching out to parents so that we can make sure that we adhere to those guidelines. Virtual IEP will continue. All IEPs, again, we talked about meetings happening virtually. So all meetings will continue to happen virtually until further notice. Still on the bus with all children, we will have staff with PPE gear. We will have additional PPE gear on the buses in the event scholars do not have that, and we will still practice social distancing. So again, parents, I talked about the safe room in the event a scholar comes to school with a temperature greater than 100.4 and parents are not in the parking lot to receive the children. We will have a designated space, a designated safe room that will be there for a short period of time for our scholars. Because in the event we have scholars that are exhibiting or presenting infectious symptoms, then we're asking parents to come and pick those children up immediately. We will make record of the scholar that has been in there. We'll still practice social distancing. In the event a scholar is feeling faint or nauseous, of course, we will have to remove the mask for that time because we want to ensure that all safety measures are in place for the scholar at that point. But again, parents will be contacted. We will also record that information electronically so that we can keep a running record of scholars that have been inside of the safe room. So of course, just like any other room, the safe room will also undergo disinfecting as well to ensure that we are prepared for the next day, each and every day. So classrooms will be disinfected as well. So parents, again, in-person learning will resume on March the 1st for all scholars that have selected to come back to in-person learning. Parents, if you have not made a choice, and even if you want to remain virtual, I ask that you contact us at the school so that we can make those adjustments for your scholar's choice for virtual learning or in-person learning. So just to provide an update of what we discussed on today, and to give you an update on how you can change or make updates to your in-person learning, simply contact the school. When you call the school, we will update that information for you. When you contact the school, this is the document that we will fill out. But before we begin filling out that document, parents, we will ask you these questions here to verify you are who you say you are. So we will verify the parent legal guardian is listed in Power School. Once you call us, we will ask you a couple of questions. We will ask you to verify the child's Power School number or the last 4 digits of their social. We'll ask you to verify the child's date of birth or verify the address on file. And this is if you're calling in for parents visiting the school or calling in. We will ask you these questions here. So again, once you give us this information, we fill out this form here for your change, then we will make the adjustments inside of Power School to change your learning option from in-person to virtual or from virtual to in-person. But it's very important, parents, that you know that you can only make that change once. And once you make that change, that is the selection for the remainder of this school year. And I close with this, parents. Our superintendent has stated over and over again that we are stronger together. We're going to return stronger together. The coronavirus will not defeat us. Here you see on the slide that we've had several, that Memphis has seen its share of epidemics and pandemics. And they are eventually conquered by public health initiatives and vaccines. The aftermath, however, gifted our city with the determination, the grit, the endurance, and a strong sense of community that defines us. There is comfort in knowing that Memphis has seen worse and not only survived, but we have thrived in it. So parents, again, we are stronger together. The coronavirus will not defeat us. On our district's website, you will be able to find frequently asked questions about our reentry, about our Stronger Together plan. These questions are prominently placed on the district's website. They have been there for quite some time for you to go out and seek additional questions or answers if your questions have not been answered in this presentation. That is the end, parents. If you have any questions at this time, I'm going to come to the chat to answer any of those questions. Parents, if you want to unmute and you have a question, you are free to do so at this time.